tell them about yourself a little bit. How long you've been at Washburn and all that.
Oh,
Because
what
we didn't put or
okay.
about ourselves.
Okay, so we can start that off. Just say how long then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be good now.
Yeah. How does it keep restarting?
It does?
Yeah.
That's not good. We are going to wing all this.
You ready? Yeah.
Hello?
Good morning. We're going to get started with this first session of the day. This is John Haverty and Joyce Scheck from Washburn University. They're going to talk about tracking new hires and setting appropriate access within 3 business days.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning. As he said, my name is John Haverty. I've been with Washburn for about 20 years. Then this is Joyce Scheck.
Hi. I've been with Washburn University for 14 years. I'm application system administrator. And John and I have worked together for a number of projects, and this one is gonna rock.
We're going to cover today just how it all began, kind of the background of how we got to this point, why we did it, accountability, benefits. We went through paper, kind of walked through the process we went through, and kind of the pains that we had across the campus that got us to this point, and then the collection of data, and then finally summary.
So how it all began, really we were actually working on building a new server, and we got to identify that we had a paper trail of trying to gather all the information. So what we did we realized we didn't have additional funding to move forward with anything, so we actually started looking at options. And we actually are a banner school, so we looked at our banner workflow, and we actually have Office 365, so that meant we were looking at SharePoint. And we also have our ticketing tracking system, which we were looking at all of those options.
We were looking at options that were free. Namely, we did look at some that we could purchase, but primarily we're looking at for free options. So again, we were looking at our ticket tracking option, and we use Footprints, BMC. So we looked at that. We looked at SharePoint, looked at, can't remember the workflow. The
banner workflow.
Yeah, banner workflow. So we just looked at all of our options, see how we could collect the data, what would work best for us.
I did reach out to, it's easy when you're looking at other institutions, I did reach out to other institutions, universities, and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And believe it or not, a lot of people were still using paper-based. And we knew we really didn't want to be paper-based anymore. We had a lot of forms coming in across the campus. So then when we started looking at other schools, we thought, well, maybe we can do something to improve on what we want to do for something going online.
So that kind of leads us into how the issue was, the process that happened before we put this into place. And basically a new person would start. It might take them 6, 7 tickets sending into support to get the access that they need, access to their drives, access to the banner, access to whatever it is that they need to be able to do, to listservs, calendar, so forth. So it'd take a while to get that set up, and it was frustrating for the new hire. It's frustrating for the department because they have to send in tickets. They don't know exactly who to communicate with. It was also confusing because it was all paper. A good majority of it, our banner account request form was paper. They'd send that in. It'd sometimes get misrouted to the wrong person, sit on someone's desk, or they'd be out and sit there. So again, those were more days for them that they'd have to wait to get their banner access. So a lot of confusion, frustrations led us to this point.
So when we were sitting around in our meetings, and we have a lot of good staff at Washburn University, and we thought, why don't we try to make a decision and go online based? So we actually worked with a PHP programmer, and we were looking at our options with our ticketing system. So that's how our decision came around, is we didn't have any additional funding to go purchase any kind of software. So we thought, okay, we got programmers in-house, can we write it in Oracle? But we decided to go with PHP because we wanted to be more web-based. So that's how the decision came about, of using our ticketing system that we have in place. We didn't really have to do too much, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And it was easy based on all the data that we had that's on the forums, actually was in our banner database.
See anything else on this? Main thing, like that last bullet there, we wanted the desire to have access that first day that the person started. remove all the frustrations. We'll get into it a little bit later, but we want to do this, have access granted within 3 days of the person starting, or actually not starting, but from them putting in the request. We wanted to have that access in place and basically be done with the process.
So believe it or not, this was the funny part of all of us. Not really funny, but we were finding out just anybody was sending in a paper-based form. It could have been a student worker signing off saying, hey, Joyce Scheck has arrived. I'm going to sign this and we're going to give her this, this, and this, and this. And we're like, really? And a lot of it was when I went to talk to supervisors during our pilot phase, they were asking, what's this I'm signing off on? They didn't even know. They were just checking the boxes. So that's how we found out that security really wasn't being accountable by the supervisors, that student workers and administrative assistants were just sending in the form.
We had a lot of that, a lot of confusion. Some discussions we also had was, are we going to, if a administrative assistant normally sends these type of requests in, are we going to take those? We still have some conversation on that.
Yes.
The general feeling is yes, if we appoint someone that they can do this and put through the request, fill out the form and send it in online, we will take those. We don't have to go to the VP or something. In other cases, if it's a student that's sending it through, we do need someone to sign off on that to say that they're going to have access to it. So it's educating the campus, educating those areas that we're used to just sending multiple email messages in for the access that they need, and kind of making them aware of the process and what needs to happen for it.
What we're also going through at Washburn University, because of the Department of Education new security request or security regulations, it's actually trickling down to our campus based on a security audit. So that kind of also got us into thinking, if we're going to get audited within the Department of Education, because they're really limited who's seeing what. So that's where we also got to thinking, we really need to be accountable what people are requesting, and do they know what they're requesting? So that also was another piece of the puzzle to this. The removal of the access, we also, when we were meeting about the new hires, a lot of it you probably have on your campuses, people transfer from here to there or department to department. So it got us to thinking, if you move to another department, we want a fresh start. So this is where also on the new hire, and we'll do a snapshot of this as well, is we want to remove the current access that they currently have and start fresh.
Which was kind of another side project that we were doing at the similar time that we were doing this, was our termination process or transfer process, which was had a lot of conversations and discussions within IT how to handle that type of thing. Again, this is all home-built stuff. We don't have an automation or a program that automates this for us. We get the termination notices and we get the new hire notices, but we rely on the departments to let us know what type of access that they need.
So the benefits, well, I think what we said this earlier is there was a lot of frustration. There was confusion. People were finger pointing at ITS that this was just taking a long time. Why was it taking so long to get access when I came on campus? So our goal was to reduce the turnaround time. We wanted to figure out what could ITS do to turn around in an appropriate timeline. First of all, we thought, could it be a week? We weren't sure. So we kind of did a pilot phase and we got it down to 3 days. And I think we're doing pretty good.
I mean, so.
We have questions, and we're going to get into what we've learned along the process is that if we have people sending in things that they shouldn't be sending in things, then we can actually turn around and get appropriate approvals based on this is all through our ticketing system.
We started this process a year ago this summer. We did a pilot phase, probably November, December timeframe, and then it went live in January. It's when it went live to the campus. Our CIO, Jim Taclarini, sent out a message to the campus and basically told everyone, this is the way we're going to do things. We're going to use this form, put through requests. I don't think he got any feedback necessarily on that, but we definitely started seeing people using the form. We started, those people that were used to sending in email messages to our support system to request access, we were directing them over to the form saying there's a new process. Again, just that educational piece of it.
The department heads really became more engaged, and also the supervisors. I think they really found out that with the data that we have, especially with HIPAA and FERPA, they need to be accountable. So they actually became more involved, and believe it or not, they actually kind of educated themselves that, oh, Well, maybe I only need them to have certain screens and banner. Maybe they only need to have more just view of, or we have the imaging for a digital instead of paper, to only view instead of maybe delete. So we actually educated them even further. And the data requests also became in one location instead of, like John said earlier, we had them all over the place. We had at least 3 or 4 forms going to different people. Then we had another ticket or there in different locations. So we had actually 7 or 8 places we had to go look for the information.
Right. The other thing this process helped us with is making our department, ITS, more efficient, knowing what each other were doing for firewall access, for banner access, making us work together. And it was kind of, we had to pull some people in that direction, discussions to how to figure this out. But I think ultimately it made us more efficient because we do know what each other are doing. We know the process. We know what needs to happen. And it's all in one place. We don't have to jump around through 3 or 4 different tickets or track down those forms to find out access. We were doing firewall requests. Prior to this, we were making people fill out a paper sheet for that, put down their MAC address, send it through campus mail, and that was the long delay.
Plus, I didn't know what a MAC address is.
Yes, that was another big.
I mean, I don't know if most of you are IT or in the sysadmin world, but to get someone from a customer, it's not their fault, it's not their job. They're saying, what's your IP address and what's your MAC? And they were going, what are you talking about? So it was amazing what we got in on a piece of paper for the MAC and IP address. It was kind of interesting. And student workers were signing that. I mean, we're allowing firewall access into our servers, and we have a student worker or administrative assistant citing that. So we kind of improved upon that.
Right.
But believe it or not, we thought what was funny through the whole process, you know how change is hard, and we're always pushing change out to our campus. And a lot of us do that because of software change, system updates, and so forth. Within our own department, we were laughing that nobody wanted to change the current process of paper. It's like,
this is how we've done it
forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you always never want to hear that. This is the way we've always done it. So we had to get out of that mindset within our own department. And we also like that to improve the workflow, like John said earlier, we said in these meetings, nobody could really say, well, what do you do with this form? I don't know. I send it to so-and-so, or so-and-so puts it on my desk. Or it was just kind of interesting within our own building, most of us in one building. We were trying to figure out, well, what do you do with this? Well, I'll walk it back and lay it on somebody's desk. So we really improved our workflow, and that's how we've got it down from weeks to 3 days. And I think we've done very well on our campus to get that reduced down to 3 days.
The other thing it helped with, kind of going along that line, is that before it would sit on someone's desk because maybe they were the only person that could set up rights or banner access or something. Mm-hmm. Now we have course backups. So this kind of fine-tune that. We documented our procedures. We have I don't remember, 10-page document that lists everything out so it's clear what people are doing. We have the backups listed in there, so if someone is out, we know who to go to. So that's all documented out, and we all know what the process is. We've shared that out to the campus so that they know what that is. Just making it clear on what the steps are, what the process is.
Yes.
So now we come in, this is what our form looks like. Again, we linked it from our campus portal. We call it My Washburn Lucian product. Requires the person to authenticate. So we have it linked within My Washburn, but then they actually have to authenticate again to fill out the form. When they do that, it automatically pulls in the supervisor information. So I have a new employee starting. I type this in as all PHP form, type in my credentials. It automatically pulls in from Banner my name, title, extension, WIN, our identification number, and department. So
what we really liked about this is all the data that used to be on these forms, like I said earlier, it's in our Banner database or our MySQL database. So we knew the data was there somewhere. So we worked with different staff, which was good. We didn't have to go out to get any consulting. We did all of this in-house, and we came together as a team, and we really put this together for our campus. And what was, like John was saying, like John Haverty and his title, all of that is coming in. Once you type all that in, it's in our Banner database. And so we're using materialized views or some other type of data that's coming in to actually, if you're typing it, it's going to confirm who you are. So this is where we're catching, and we've actually caught this a couple of times. Student workers are saying, I want to have access from my buddy sitting across the way. We've actually now caught that, and now we're sending that back to the supervisor.
Right. The other thing that, of course, that it collects is the employee information. So when they fill out this request, they have to type in that new employee or that employee's identification number. If they're not in the system yet, because they're trying to get them added, they start next Monday and they're trying to do it today, but their HR hasn't added them yet, they won't be able to fill out this form until that person is active in our employee system. So they actually get an error pop-up occurs and said, contact HR, contact VPAA, and find out what the status of this new employee is.
That's because we worked with HR. That was where we were getting hung up at, because the access wouldn't be getting started for weeks is because of this one piece of information called the I-9. You have to have the I-9 to have that before you get an ID number in the system. So we actually worked with our department and said, hey, this is what our frustration is. There's been a lot of confusion. And so they actually worked with us, understanding that people really need to have their access. So when they come in, this is also funny in a way, they were coming in their first day of campus, they were signing in with somebody else's credentials. That's not good, right? So we're trying to figure out how can we get that improved. And that's where our HR department now realized within ITS as well that we really need to have these people have their access ready to go. So we actually made an improvement and got that changed. Some of the things like to verify, you had to sign on this piece of paper that I, Joyce Scheck, will not share my information, blah, blah, blah. We actually took that off this online form, and when they're now coming on campus, they're going to be signing like an oath card. So we kind of improved upon that as well.
So if we look at the access request that comes in, mention that you fill out the WIN number, it automatically pulls in their name, their contact information. If it's there, if not, then they have to wait. We also want to do this, that it is primarily for new hires, but it's also for that transfer so that we can catch those people that are transferring from this department over to another. Hopefully our termination process, which is another project we worked on, is catching that and disabling their access in that other department. And of course, we also want to try and track student workers as well. When we have lots of those, they're constantly changing from this area over to this other. So we're trying to track that. The other thing we did was a start date. We won't allow them to do today. It has to be at least someday in the future, at least to give us a little bit of a head start on it. So we tried to put that in there just to kind of give us an idea, or them, so they can let us know either when that access is desired or when that person's going to be starting.
To continue on what's on the form, so everything that we have that's listed here actually was on a piece of paper. So we actually evaluated, and we went out and piloted this with our customers. They actually helped us the most. We didn't dictate that ITS is going to do all of this. We went out to our campus community and said, what is it that's helpful that would, if you're on a form online, how easy can we make it for you? And this is where we came into in regard to the access questions. They actually helped us as well. Is when we have shared drives, and when I'm talking about that, is you're on some kind of letter that's on your campus that you're going to have a particular folder for your department. Specialty software, so like I'm maybe working, if you've heard about DegreeWorks or Banner, imaging, stuff like that, that is allowing access through our firewall. And then for the computer information, I'll let John take a handle on that one.
So the computer information, again, we used to, on that form, we'd ask them for the MAC address. We no longer do that because they didn't know how to find it. They didn't know where to look for that information. So all we asked for them to put in is a 5-digit code we have printed right on our computers, on the top of laptops or on the front of desktop computers. So they just type in that code, comes into us. When we get this into our ticket tracking system, we're able to press a button, it goes out, pulls in the MAC address, wireless MAC address, basically everything about that computer is automatically pulled in for them. So it kind of took away some of that confusion that we had from our customers. We do to try and help them out because maybe they don't know what the labels look like. We did do some help screens in there. What's that label look like? Well, they can click it and it does a pop-up and it shows we have 2 or 3 different versions of our label that comes up, so they can hopefully get an idea of what they're looking for to type that in there.
What we also found out is within our email, calendar, and reports access, we're in this room and people go, well, yeah, I had them email that to me, and we all went, you do? To one person. So if that person was on, say, a 2 weeks vacation, that was sitting in their email bucket until they got back. So we had to resolve that. And in regard to the calendar, everybody goes, we set up calendars? What's that? So we didn't realize if you're in financial aid that they wanted like a listserv or a special calendar to have access to. So it was a learning process for us that like one person was only doing this. And that's why we were getting tagged for weeks, because if you did go on vacation, it was sitting in your email.
Right. Website content was another one. Again, these are new people starting. We have content developers across the campus. We wanted to be able to have them put this request. They have that new person starting so they can put that request in immediately and not have to do it, a few weeks after they start to send the request through. So we put that as an option on the form as well.
And we've said this many times, banner, recruit, and imaging, we actually have specialty access for these type of forms, or for like banner forms and pages and recruit and imaging. So actually we have a drop-down box. We didn't show it here, but when you expand on the online form, it's asking very specific questions, what you're gonna have access to, which we didn't do that before. And actually we've done kind of like help buttons or icons along the way. So if you need recruit, imaging, banner, you click on this, it's like, and they'll go, oh, okay, so-and-so won't need to access payroll information or to approve timesheet. Because that was what's funny, is we were having people have access to approved timesheets.
Right. The other helpful thing that we did, we actually had this on the paper form that used to come through, was the same as access. So someone else in the department already has that access. Maybe it's a student worker, administrative assistant, need to have that. That's been very helpful. That makes it easy for us when that request comes through, because we're able to just copy those permissions to the new person. So we did include that, and that's been very helpful.
On the additional comments on requests, it was just anything that we have missed as IT in regard to, we can't track everything in regard to software. And you all know this, that your departments might go out and they might purchase some piece of software that eventually might need access. So that is why we put it that field. We've had a few comments in there, and actually some people have filled out, like at some of our departments to print transcripts, they might need a specialty tray to actually print the hard copy transcripts. So we've actually kind of denoted that.
Right. One piece that we still have a little bit of confusion on that we need to go back and correct is the finance access. It's when they fill this form out, that is actually still a paper form that they have to click on. It's a link inside the form that they have to click on. It goes to our finance department and they fill that out or complete that process. I think we're going to probably circle back around with our finance department and see if we can just build that all into this online form so they get a notification. They're added to the ticket. They can do it all online as well. And we've had a couple departments that have been very confused with that process that need to fill out that form. And they're, why don't we have access? We got the banner access, but we still can't approve timesheet or approve finance forms, that type of thing.
Right. The collection of data has really helped us within ITS. We won't get into the technical specifics, but we actually have a database that's capturing all this data. So when we wrote the PHP program, there was a collaboration effort between the PHP programmer and actually John Haverty of how are we going to get certain like bullet points or the variable or the parameter that was on that online form to dump into the database. So we really didn't have to do any typing per se or changing any of that. So it was all of the data that's coming in was collecting into one place.
The other thing that helped in this process is obviously we have a lot of people in our IT department. When these requests come in, we don't need to add the entire department to the ticket. Right. So we have escalations that are part of our ticket tracking system, of course. So if it comes in, they're asking for banner access. Well, that might only be 2 or 3 people that are added to the ticket if that's all the person is needing that's being hired. So it automatically add those 2 people. Everyone else is left off. If it's firewall, of course, that goes to another group of people. If they select all those, then everyone in the department is added to it. So that helped a lot. When we did first roll this out, when we were testing it in November and December, we were adding everyone and we were getting lots of questions. Why am I on this ticket? What am I supposed to be doing with this? What's the point of this? This is very confusing. I'm getting so many messages, that type of thing, because we do have it's sending out email messages. So our agents can actually reply to the ticket and update it if they need to through email. So, but now that we fine-tuned it and we just have those people that are assigned that need to be assigned, I think it's helped out a great deal.
Oh, yes. We did have pushback. We made that change within our own department, and it's like
a lot of pushback.
I think it worked fine just the way it was. And what we're trying to go with is holding supervisors accountable, getting all the data collected in one place. So like we said in November, December, that first few weeks when we pushed this out, it was like people like, I don't want to be on this ticket. Why am I on this ticket? And what we've also done to tweak it, so there's an email that will go out to you and it lists like, here's this dialogue of now what you have to do. So say you're in the middle of a phone call, you're in a meeting, you can just quickly look at your email escalation coming to you. Oh, I only need banner. I only need imaging. So you don't have to go look at the ticketing system per se. you're actually getting the email escalation to you. That has been very helpful for a lot of people.
Kind of going back to, we said we try our goal and what was sent out to the campus is to process a new hire, the new requests within 3 business days. We've evaluated that a little bit. We're trying to figure out if we've done everything that we think we can, and it's now waiting for the customer, because when we complete all of our processes, it automatically sends a message back to the customer and the new employee saying, we think we're done. Please let us know if there are any problems. Well, sometimes those will sit out there for days and we don't hear back from them. Once it gets to that point, when it kicks off that message, we are done with the new hire process, and that's kind of when our clock stops. It's now back over to them. Of course, we also have those instances where we need information from them. Maybe they requested a student worker put through the request. Mm-hmm. We had to change the assignee or the contact to be their supervisor, and we need information from them. Well, again, it might sit out there for a little while. It sits out there for a few days. We get reports on that. It comes out to the entire team. We all get that on it. It comes out every morning, actually, so we can see which ones are still lingering, which ones are over 3 days old, and then pick up a phone and call that department and say, hey, did you see this message that we sent to you a week ago and we haven't heard from you? So we can kind of keep them moving that way as well.
What's also in regard to our security that we're going through is the firewall request notification has become very important to us right now, is because we're actually working on a security audit. So we're actually trying to track down where are we opening access through our firewall on our campus. We went through a lot of processes and we've got it down to maybe only 3 people should be approving it. And actually nobody can have firewall access until it's properly approved, because then we're also doing an evaluation. Is why are they really needing it? So it's also helped us, even though in the past you may have requested firewall, maybe you really didn't know why you were accessing or requesting firewall. So we've actually made that change. It became even better. Some people didn't even know what the firewall access form was used for.
That was another one where we had a backup. So when firewall request comes through, it automatically adds 2 people, primary and then a backup. Just because we were having the same thing. That was a paper form, as we said earlier. It would sit on someone's desk and they were out. Nothing would happen to it. So having that backup has, of course, helped a great deal.
Right. And with the experience John and I have had throughout the years and been on campus throughout the years, we've actually made phone calls. And so instead of just letting the piece of paper sit on the desk or the ticket just sitting in the queue waiting, like, I'll get to that later, we're now saying, oh, did anybody happen to call the supervisor? I think they're confused of why they requested this. It's like, really, do you need access to psychology and financial aid? Because really, those are 2 different spectrums. You will never have that person have access to those 2. So when we see stuff like that, we're getting that trigger to make that phone call.
And it also allows us to follow up with other areas within IT. So if we see that ticket that's sitting out there and we know that it's waiting on someone else to do, maybe they didn't see it, they were busy, their backup didn't jump on it, then I'll jump on the phone or drop them a message and say, hey, can you go out and take a look at this new hire? It's been sitting out there, it's waiting for something for you to do. Again, going back to the accountability piece.
The email has really been efficient too, because if the piece of paper came through to us, then, are you going to send the piece of paper back? So now with updating notes that are now email based, those notes are going directly to the supervisor. It's all right there. They'll see the whole history within the ticket that's been received, and they'll see, why did Joyce as a student worker request access for John when I should have been doing that? So then we got the supervisor now seeing those requests.
So in summary, basically we improved the process, I think, a great deal. We've received positive comments back from the campus, back from directors that we work with. Again, I think like Joyce said earlier, there was confusion. They were approving things and they didn't know what they were approving. I think this has opened up their eyes a little bit so they know what they're approving. It's clear to them. We know the person that they're requesting access is also in that communication, so that's helped a great deal.
The collection of data has tremendously improved. We just didn't realize how much information we were collecting with web content, emails, calendars, banner, imaging, recruit, degree works, access to your shared folders, how deep into that. If you needed payroll, finance, maybe you needed to be on another campus. I'm forgetting others. It was just a laundry list. We were just kind of shocked at, oh yeah, I get that email request. Yeah, I do it when I have time. Or, we get the piece of paper, wasn't filled out right. So the collection of data, it just shocked us how much we were collecting for one person.
Right. And as we mentioned earlier, supervisors they're completing these forms, or we're trying to get them to complete those forms. We are keeping track. So if it's an administrative assistant that's doing it for maybe a VP, we will let them do that, and we'll accept those and process those. It's just kind of learning the process and communicating, working with the departments to make sure that we know that this person can put in a request. We have one unique area, our mass media area that does our student newspaper. We let their students put through the request, but we still need some type of approval. We'll go in and CC their supervisor and say, is this okay to set this up, type thing.
I think we both can comment, positive comments from the campus is we are no longer getting the frustration from our customers or faculty and staff. We've made it easier for them. They've been very proactive once the message went out from our CIO that they understood the importance of why we were making this change.
Right. Thank you very much. Any questions? There's contact email address.
Please hold your hand up and I'll get the mic
He's
to you
gonna
so
get
we
the
can
mic
get
to
your
you.
questions recorded.
Thank you.
Do you have, is there an assumption, does HR do your NDA or acceptable use policies before these requests start coming in? So you don't, once those requests come in, you're assuming that the
Correct.
has already signed off on all that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That will have to be correct, because before we can actually start this process, remember when John showed his name and title, there's an ID number that is generated at that time. Once HR puts that into the system, that triggers a notification to our system as well.
That, of course, is all based off of I-9 and having that process, which HR, BPA takes care of.
Right.
Two questions. One is, how do you handle super early onboarding? Like you have an executive, president starting July 1, and they want him to have an email March 1. So he doesn't have an I-9 or anything, he or she. Separate, a little bit different on transfers. If they want to, if the person has agreed to help their former department until such time as they recruit somebody and train them, which could be any unknown amount of a few months, how do you make sure you go back and take away and give them the least privilege?
Right.
Okay, thank you. So you want to handle the first one?
So we actually had that happen.
Yeah.
We had a vice president that needed access, and believe it or not, we had to go through the appropriate channels. So we just didn't let anyone just say, hey, for the vice president. It actually had to come from the president to make that request.
And then transfers, we do work with those departments. So normally we'd cut off access as soon as that transfer comes through, but we will work with them if they need them. Usually they'll communicate that with us ahead of time, say, hey, I need this person. They're going to still be working in this area, but they also need access over here. So we definitely work with them, and it's all documented in the ticket to track that type of access.
It's actually been very well received on our campus now. I think everybody's understanding the importance of why we're doing the security. So even though the executives, like deans or the vice president, they did truly understand why we were doing this.
Right.
I think that one over here.
I think it's really great that you guys have improved your onboarding. We've been working on ours for quite some time, and I think we've made some great strides as well. But I'm curious how you're doing on offboarding. That seems to be more of a struggle for us.
That is the other piece that we were working at. It was kind of going at the same time of this process. We're still kind of fine tuning our termination process. It is we have a whole manual. We could probably do another presentation on that, but we're doing something similar. It's kind of like that when someone leaves and we're taking access away immediately. Just working through the process. It's still a work in progress though.
Well, what we've actually done, there's more collaboration and communication now within ITS. When we've actually got HR on board. So when they need to say an immediate now, and it's going to be done, say at 2:30, there is communication in our building that everybody's like, hey, did you see this is coming up at 2:30? We're talking about the firewall, the PCs, all the access into the systems. So that's really like this process here. We've got another process that's where it's got an email triggering to everybody. So like one person might say, hey, did you see this? So that's what's really got us going with the offboarding as well.
We did have an issue with when someone needed immediate termination. For a while, we were getting those requests from kind of all over the campus. Someone was going to terminate someone. Well, that director had sent in a message to us, and we had some miscommunication at times because things were done earlier than they should have been, and someone lost their access, and what's going on type thing. We removed all that through our termination process, and now those can only come in through our HR director or HR department. They have a certain address they send it to. When they send it in, it goes into our termination, another workspace, automatically sends out to everyone that needs to be involved, and we're not just taking it from just anyone,
Right.
which helped a lot.
Yeah, and I guess what I would say, the urgent or emergency terminations,
Mhm.
those aren't typically the problem, because those are the ones that make sure you know about
Right.
it, and that's what
Yeah.
those at our place and probably most universities.
Right.
The area that I find it to be difficult are, well, faculty typically, but it could be staff, mostly faculty, where they have a 9-month contract
Oh, yep.
and they run out, and you don't know if they're coming back the next
Right.
year, and so nobody notifies you, and then as it turns out, they don't come back, you're never notified.
Yeah.
So those
We struggle with that as well.
We've actually addressed that now because we've written a report. So we have a lot of terminations because it's coming the end of the contract with adjuncts and faculty. So now we got a report, say like May 31st, we're going to have a bulk, or June 30th, we're going to have a bulk. So now the report is sent to the appropriate people. Hey, on June 30th, we have this list of people, and you get the report. I think it's weekly.
Weekly, every Monday, I
So,
believe.
I mean, it's right there. It's a list. Here's your win number. Here's what they have access to. And then it's a report. If you just follow the report, then you're good to go.
And again, it's kind of like this project or this workspace where we have a primary and a backup. So if someone's out, they know that they need to handle this and go in and remove Windows access or whatever it is that needs to be done. So similar type of process for it.
We got a question about.
A couple of questions. First, who is your ideal submitter of this form? Is it the supervisor of the new employee or somebody else in the chain?
Yes. Yeah, supervisor is ideal.
Okay.
That's who we want to be putting these through. Like I said, we'll take it administrative because their supervisor might not have the time to go and fill out the form, but that is our ideal submitter of the form.
The second question is, do you have any situations where additional approval is needed
Yes.
for like a banner
Yes.
form or whatever?
Right.
And how do you handle that?
Right.
We actually, when the data comes in and we see that we need additional approval, it could be myself, John, or one of my other colleagues saying, hey, we're going to need additional approval from this particular supervisor. So we type in the information in the ticket, and that is sent back as an email back to the supervisor, and the dialogue is happening there within that. Once they do the approval is coming back in on the ticket, and the supervisor, believe it or not, they're actually following the command of what they need to be doing. Yes.
So do you in ITS have any veto authority for requests for accesses?
Mhm.
Can you say no?
Mhm.
A request comes in and they want to, I think you mentioned, well, yeah, we can just copy so-and-so's.
Mhm.
Right.
Do you have the authority to say, no, that's not appropriate?
Yes.
For instance, they wanted to give a student worker the same access as the budget director.
Right. We would.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of it is too, if they just start picking all the specialty software, like my example would be psychology, finance, payroll, financial aid, not one person on campus will have any of those. If you're in financial aid, you're only going to get financial aid. Finance, if you're in finance, you'll get all the stuff that's in the finance department. But if some person, which somebody did do this
I was
during
gonna
our
say that too.
trial run, they picked everything. We went, no.
Yeah. You don't need this access. So we got on the phone, called them and said they just didn't understand what the form, it was new. This was back in January.
Right.
They had a new person starting, didn't quite understand it. And so we just walked them through, and then we went and removed those accesses and just granted what they needed.
Would you have a recommendation for managing email access in case where people might not have an active contract over summer or in a particular semester? And so after 30 days, they would, we wouldn't be able to recover their mailbox.
So kind of going back to the question earlier, our staff, a lot of them, faculty, I should say, they have those contracts, so they might not be active during the summer, but they still have access to the email unless our VPA department went in and basically remove their access. So their email accounts stay active. Yeah.
It's for a certain period of time, I believe.
It'd be whenever their termination date is, going to the
Right.
termination project. So if they have no termination date listed in Banner, their account's going to remain active. So we have people that will be adjuncts and maybe they're not teaching. VPA just has them still out there. There's no termination date. They'll come back in the fall. They can go right back into their account and no issues with it. We're trying to fine tune some of that.
Even though the person
It's all
doesn't teach necessarily.
right. It's we have to rely on VPAA because they're the ones putting those in and dealing with the adjuncts. So we rely on that a lot. Kind of the flip side of that, in the fall, sometimes we'll have adjuncts that have been here and maybe that their termination was put through. They'll come in and teach in the fall. Well, they don't have a start date until, I don't remember what they do, like September, after the semester starts, which can sometimes be confusing. Then we go back to, again, an earlier question, how do we get that access back so they can get into their account? But I think most of the time they don't usually remove those if they expect the person to come back. It's just those that maybe are gone for a semester or two. They'll go in and actually put a termination date in. Their access is removed, and then they have to wait for the new hire process to go through again. Does that answer your question?
We have 5 minutes left, so we
Okay.
probably have time for a couple more questions.
You've mentioned tickets a lot. You're tracking this by footprints tickets.
Correct.
Yes.
We've been with Footprints for, over 10 years. We have a really good price for it. Yes, very flexible.
We have a
There's a question
question.
down here.
So do you have supervisors fill out the form if somebody is switching from one department to another? They have one set of access here and now they're going to have a whole new set.
Right. That's the ideal situation. Yes. That's what we would prefer. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes like we'll have an administrative assistant will do it. But again, we're basically keeping a list of who those admin assistants that can put the request in for that area. But yeah, ideally we want the supervisor to put it in.
And also on our campus, we have actually new department heads as well. And so they're realizing with the new rules from Department of Education, if I'm leaving the registrar's office, or I'm leaving financial aid office, I really want that access taken away. So they're really on board. If they need to put in the request themselves just to initiate that process, they're actually doing that as well. So we've actually educated our campus going through this process. Anybody?
Any other questions?
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good job. Thank you.